Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into one of history's most dangerous rooms, the ancient Greek birthing chamber. Picture this. You're a young woman in 5th century BCE Athens, and you've just realized you're pregnant. Your heart pounds not with joy, but with terror, because you know that roughly 1 in 4 women like you won't survive what's coming. Why did giving birth in ancient Greece feel more like preparing for battle than welcoming new life? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your world. I love seeing our global community come together for these nighttime journeys. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're about to discover that ancient Greek pregnancy wasn't just about growing a baby. It was about surviving a gauntlet of superstitions, primitive medicine, and social pressures that could literally determine whether you lived or died. Through the next few minutes, you'll uncover exactly why Greek women approached childbirth with such fear. And surprisingly, some practices that were remarkably ahead of their time. The moment you suspect you're pregnant in ancient Greece, your world transforms into a precarious balance between hope and dread. Unlike today, where pregnancy tests give you certainty within minutes, you rely on the irregular patterns of your monthly bleeding and the gradual changes in your body. The Greek physician Hippocrates, whose medical theories still influence us today, believed that missed menstruation meant the blood was being redirected to nourish the growing child. A surprisingly accurate understanding for its time. But here's where things get interesting. Ancient Greeks had some bizarre pregnancy detection methods that would make modern doctors cringe. Some midwives claimed they could determine pregnancy by having you urinate on wheat and barley seeds. If they sprouted, you were supposedly carrying a child. If only wheat grew, they predicted a girl. If barley flourished, a boy was coming. Historians still argue whether this method had any scientific basis or was pure superstition, though modern research suggests human pregnancy hormones might actually affect plant growth in small ways. Your daily life shifts dramatically once pregnancy is confirmed. Greek society views you as both blessed and cursed. Blessed because you're fulfilling your primary role as a woman, but cursed because you're now walking a tightrope between life and death. The maternal mortality rate hovers around 25%, meaning that in a room of 4 pregnant women, one won't survive to hold her baby. These aren't just statistics to you. They're the harsh reality reflected in the faces of the women around you, some of whom have already buried friends who died in childbirth. The physical changes you experience mirror those of modern pregnancy, but your understanding of what's happening inside your body is vastly different. Greek medical theory suggests that your womb is like a wandering animal inside you, capable of moving around and causing various symptoms. When you feel nauseous, they explain it as your womb pressing against your stomach. When you experience mood swings, it's because this internal creature is restless and needs to be appeased. Your diet becomes a minefield of conflicting advice from older women, midwives, and the occasional male physician who thinks he understands women's bodies. You're told to avoid certain foods that might make the baby too large, making delivery impossible. Beans are forbidden because they might cause excessive wind, potentially harming the child. Wine is acceptable in small amounts. In fact, it's encouraged during labor to help with pain, but too much could make your baby weak or deformed. The social pressure weighs heavily on your shoulders. Your husband's family watches your belly grow with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. If you're carrying the family's first son, the stakes feel impossibly high. Greek society values male heirs above all else, and your ability to produce a healthy boy directly impacts your status within the household. Failure to conceive, miscarriage, or giving birth to too many daughters could result in divorce or being replaced by a younger wife. As your pregnancy progresses, you begin preparing for what might be your final battle. You're not being dramatic. Greek women approach childbirth with the same mental preparation that warriors use before heading into combat. You start gathering the women who will attend your birth. Your mother, if she's still alive, experienced neighbors who have survived multiple deliveries, and most importantly, a skilled midwife whose reputation could mean the difference between survival and death. Your husband, meanwhile, becomes increasingly distant as your delivery approaches. Greek men are expected to stay away from the birthing process entirely. It's considered a feminine mystery that could pollute or weaken them. This isolation means you'll face the most dangerous moment of your life, surrounded only by other women, some of whom are secretly terrified they're about to watch you die. The weight of this reality settles over you like a heavy blanket. You wake each morning of your pregnancy with a whispered prayer to Hera, the queen of the gods and protector of married women, because in ancient Greece, divine intervention isn't just hoped for, it's considered absolutely essential for survival. The Greek pantheon offers you multiple goddesses to petition, each with specific powers over different aspects of pregnancy and childbirth. And choosing the right divine patron could literally mean the difference between holding your baby or joining the countless women who died trying. Artemis, the virgin huntress, might seem like an odd choice for pregnant women to worship, but she's actually one of your most powerful allies. According to myth, she helped deliver her own twin brother Apollo when their mother Leto was in labor, making her the divine midwife. You bring offerings of honey cakes and small clay figurines to her temple, pleading for her skill and protection during your own delivery. The irony isn't lost on the Greek worshippers. A goddess who chose eternal virginity becomes the guardian of women facing their most feminine ordeal. But here's where Greek religion gets fascinatingly complex. You can't just pick one goddess and stick with her. Each deity controls different aspects of the birthing process, so you're essentially hedging your bets across multiple divine relationships. Hera oversees the overall protection of married women and legitimate children, while Artemis handles the actual mechanics of delivery. Then there's Demeter, goddess of fertility and harvest, who you petition for the general health and growth of your unborn child. The ritual practices you follow would seem elaborate and expensive to modern eyes, but they're absolutely crucial investments in your survival. Every morning, you pour libations of wine or milk at your household shrine, speaking directly to whichever goddess you feel needs attention that day. Your husband, despite his general absence from pregnancy matters, is expected to fund these religious observances generously. Skimping on divine offerings is considered tantamount to signing your own death warrant. Your neighborhood temple becomes a second home during pregnancy. You join other pregnant women in group ceremonies, sharing fears and hopes while making collective offerings. These gatherings serve a dual purpose. You're both appealing to the gods and building the network of women who might attend your birth. The experienced mothers share stories of divine intervention during their own deliveries. Sudden pain relief, babies who turned from dangerous breech positions, or bleeding that mysteriously stopped just when death seemed certain. Greek religious tradition includes some pregnancy customs that would raise eyebrows today. Pregnant women often sleep with small statues of protective deities under their pillows, believing the physical proximity enhances divine protection. Some carry carved amulets depicting Artemis with her bow, symbolically asking her to shoot away any complications during delivery. Historians still argue whether these practices had any psychological benefit that might have actually improved outcomes, or if they were purely superstitious rituals that gave women an illusion of control. The most intense religious experience comes during your 7th month, when you participate in the special pregnancy blessing ceremony at Hera's temple. This ritual involves purification baths, offerings of your own hair, and public prayers where you formally request the goddess's protection during your upcoming trial. Other women who have survived childbirth attend these ceremonies, adding their voices to your petitions and sharing their own gratitude for divine intervention. But the gods aren't just protective. They're also potentially vengeful if you fail to show proper respect. Greek mythology is filled with stories of women who suffered difficult births or lost children because they offended a deity. You're constantly aware that your behavior during pregnancy reflects not just on your physical health, but on your spiritual standing with the divine powers who control your fate. The financial burden of these religious observances can be substantial. Between temple offerings, ritual items, and ceremonial foods, your family might spend the equivalent of several months' income ensuring divine favor. Your husband grumbles about the expense, but he knows that skimping on these costs could result in losing both wife and child, a far more expensive proposition in the long run. As your pregnancy advances, your prayers become more specific and desperate. You ask Artemis for a quick delivery, Hera for protection from bleeding, and all the goddesses for a healthy baby who will survive infancy. These aren't casual requests. They're life-or-death negotiations with powers beyond human understanding, and you approach them with the same seriousness that modern patients bring to consulting with specialist doctors. Your mother shares stories of her own divine encounters during pregnancy, describing moments when she felt the presence of Artemis guiding the midwife's hands, or when Hera seemed to whisper encouragement during her darkest moments of labor. Whether these experiences were real divine intervention or the product of extreme physical and emotional stress, they provide you with hope that you too might receive supernatural assistance when you're about to meet the most important person in your ancient Greek pregnancy journey, the Maya, or midwife, whose skill and experience will determine whether you survive the next few hours or become another casualty of childbirth. This isn't just any healthcare provider. She's part medical practitioner, part spiritual guide, and part warrior who's prepared to battle death itself for you and your baby. Choosing the right midwife is literally the most critical decision you'll make during your pregnancy, because her knowledge and techniques are your only hope against the countless things that can go wrong. The ideal midwife comes with an impressive resume of successful deliveries and living testimonials. Women who survived difficult births and healthy children, who made it past their dangerous first year. Your mother, aunts, and female neighbors all have opinions about which midwife in your area has the best reputation, and these discussions can become surprisingly heated. Women guard information about skilled midwives jealously, because everyone knows that the truly exceptional ones can only attend so many births. Greek midwives come from diverse backgrounds, but they share certain common qualifications that set them apart from ordinary women. Most are past childbearing age themselves, having survived multiple pregnancies and raised children to adulthood, proof that they understand the process intimately. Many have learned their craft from their own mothers or mothers-in-law, creating lineages of birthing expertise that pass down through generations. Some have even received training from male physicians, though this is relatively rare and marks them as particularly skilled practitioners. Your chosen midwife arrives at your home carrying a leather bag filled with tools that would fascinate and terrify modern observers. She has birthing stools carved from specific types of wood believed to aid delivery, sharp bronze knives for cutting umbilical cords, various herbal preparations for pain relief and infection prevention, and small implements for repositioning babies or assisting with difficult deliveries. Some midwives even carry primitive forceps, though these are dangerous tools that are only used in the most desperate circumstances. But here's what makes Greek midwives truly remarkable. They're not just focused on the mechanical aspects of birth. Your midwife also serves as a spiritual intermediary, knowing the proper prayers and rituals to invoke divine protection during labor. She understands which herbs honor which goddess, how to arrange your birthing chamber to encourage positive spiritual energy, and what offerings should be made if complications arise. This combination of practical skill and religious knowledge makes her indispensable. The relationship between you and your midwife begins months before your due date. She visits your home regularly during your final trimester, examining your belly, listening to your concerns, and gradually building the trust that will be essential during labor. These preparatory visits serve multiple purposes. She's assessing your physical condition, identifying potential complications, and establishing the emotional connection that will help her guide you through the most intense experience of your life. Greek midwives possess knowledge that seems surprisingly sophisticated for their time. They understand the importance of cleanliness during delivery, washing their hands and sterilizing their tools with wine or vinegar. They know how to identify the signs of different complications, breech presentations, cord prolapse, excessive bleeding, and have developed techniques for managing these emergencies. Some can even perform internal examinations to assess the progress of labor, though this is considered intimate and potentially dangerous knowledge. The most experienced midwives develop an almost supernatural ability to predict how individual births will unfold. Your midwife watches how you move, listens to how you breathe, and observes your general health to form educated guesses about what challenges you might face. She knows that women with narrow hips are more likely to have prolonged labor, that very young mothers face different risks than older ones, and that certain signs during pregnancy can predict complications during delivery. But Greek midwives also labor under significant limitations that modern practitioners would find horrifying. They have no understanding of infection control beyond basic cleanliness, no knowledge of anatomy beyond what they can observe externally, and no tools for measuring vital signs or monitoring fetal health. When complications arise, they rely on experience, intuition, and prayer rather than scientific understanding of what's actually happening inside your body. The social status of midwives in Greek society is complex and somewhat contradictory. On one hand, they're respected for their life-saving skills and spiritual knowledge. Successful midwives often become wealthy and influential within their communities, with families competing for their services. On the other hand, they're associated with women's mysteries that make men uncomfortable, and their intimate knowledge of female bodies can make them objects of suspicion or fear. Historians still argue whether Greek midwives received any formal training, or if their knowledge was passed down purely through informal apprenticeships and personal experience. What's certain is that the best midwives possessed a combination of practical skills, intuitive understanding, and spiritual knowledge that made them invaluable members of their communities, and your best hope for surviving the ordeal ahead. Your midwife's reputation will soon be. You're now navigating a labyrinth of ancient Greek pregnancy customs that seem equal parts protective wisdom and bewildering superstition, where every food you eat, every step you take, and every object you touch could supposedly influence your baby's health or your own survival. These aren't just quaint old traditions. They're serious protocols that Greek women follow religiously, because in a world where medical knowledge is limited and mortality rates are high, controlling what you can control feels like your only defense against fate. Your daily routine becomes governed by an intricate web of dietary restrictions that would make modern nutritionists either laugh or cry. Greek pregnant women are forbidden from eating rabbit meat, supposedly because it will cause your baby to be born with a hair lip, a birth defect that ancient Greeks found particularly disturbing. You're also warned against consuming too much fish, as it might make your child slippery and difficult to hold during delivery. Conversely, you're encouraged to eat plenty of bread and barley, foods associated with Demeter's fertility blessings. The jewelry and amulets you wear during pregnancy serve as your personal armor against the supernatural forces that Greeks believe threaten unborn children. Your mother gives you a necklace featuring a small charm depicting Artemis, while your mother-in-law insists you wear a bronze bracelet engraved with protective symbols. Some of these amulets contain small compartments holding herbs or stones, believed to ward off the evil eye, a malevolent force that jealous women might direct toward your pregnancy out of envy or spite. Your behavior during pregnancy is scrutinized and regulated by everyone around you, because Greeks believe that your actions directly influence your developing child's character and appearance. You're told to look at beautiful objects and avoid ugly sights, as these visual experiences supposedly shape your baby's physical features. Spending time in gardens or near flowering plants is encouraged, while exposure to violence, anger, or disturbing images is strictly forbidden. This puts enormous pressure on your family to shield you from any unpleasant realities of daily life. But here's where Greek pregnancy customs get particularly fascinating. They include some practices that align surprisingly well with modern medical advice. Pregnant women are encouraged to take gentle walks daily, avoid heavy lifting, and get plenty of rest, recommendations that sound remarkably similar to contemporary prenatal care. The emphasis on maintaining a calm, peaceful environment also echoes modern understanding of how stress affects pregnancy outcomes. The rituals surrounding your clothing and appearance during pregnancy reveal the deep connection between physical and spiritual preparation. You're expected to keep your hair covered when leaving the house, as exposed hair is believed to make you vulnerable to supernatural interference. Your garments should be loose and comfortable, but they must also be ritually clean, washed with specific herbs, and blessed by older women who have successfully navigated their own pregnancies. Greek pregnancy customs include elaborate cleansing rituals that serve both practical and spiritual purposes. You bathe regularly with water infused with herbs like mint and lavender, which not only keep you clean, but also provide aromatherapy benefits that might actually help with nausea and anxiety. These baths are accompanied by prayers and offerings, transforming basic hygiene into sacred ritual that connects you with the divine forces protecting mothers and children. Your social interactions become carefully managed during pregnancy, as Greeks believe that negative emotions or hostile encounters can harm your unborn child. You're discouraged from arguing with neighbors, attending funerals, or even discussing sad topics at length. This creates a protective bubble around you, but it also isolates you from normal social life and places the burden of maintaining harmony on everyone around you. The superstitions surrounding pregnancy symptoms would seem bizarre to modern women, but they provide Greek mothers with explanations for experiences that medical science couldn't yet understand. Morning sickness indicates that you're carrying a strong, healthy child who's asserting their presence. Unusual food cravings are messages from the gods about what nutrients your baby needs. Even uncomfortable symptoms like heartburn are interpreted positively, supposedly meaning your child will be born with a full head of hair. Some pregnancy customs seem designed more to keep worried families busy than to provide any real medical benefit. You're expected to participate in elaborate monthly ceremonies at various temples, make specific offerings to different goddesses at precise times during your pregnancy, and follow complex dietary rotation that change based on lunar cycles. Historians still argue whether these practices had any measurable impact on pregnancy outcomes, or simply gave families a sense of agency during an uncertain time. The most intense customs surround your final month of pregnancy, when the focus shifts from prevention to active preparation for the ordeal ahead. You begin wearing special robes that have been blessed by successful mothers, sleep with protective herbs under your pillow, and participate in purification rituals designed to cleanse you spiritually before the physical trial of childbirth. These practices acknowledge that you're approaching the most dangerous moment of your life and require every possible form of protection, both earthly and you're entering the sacred space where ancient Greek women faced their greatest trial, the carefully prepared birthing chamber that serves as both medical facility and spiritual sanctuary, where every detail has been arranged to maximize your chances of survival and invoke divine protection during the dangerous hours ahead. This isn't just a bedroom where you happen to give birth. It's a ritualized environment designed by generations of women who understood that creating the right atmosphere could mean the difference between life and death. The room itself is typically the largest chamber in your home, chosen not for comfort but for practical reasons that become apparent during labor. You need space for multiple attendants to move around freely, room for the birthing stool and other equipment, and adequate ventilation for what will be a long, intense physical ordeal. The windows are covered with specific fabrics that filter light without blocking it entirely, creating a dim, womb-like atmosphere that's supposed to ease the transition for your emerging baby. Your female relatives spend days preparing this space with the same attention to detail that warriors use when preparing for battle. The floor is swept clean and covered with fresh straw or clean linens, materials that can absorb blood and other fluids while providing some cushioning if you need to kneel or lie down. Every surface is washed with water that's been blessed at the temple, and small offerings are placed in each corner of the room to honor the goddesses who protect women in childbirth. The centerpiece of your birthing chamber is the specially constructed birthing stool, a piece of furniture that represents centuries of accumulated wisdom about the mechanics of delivery. Unlike the flat beds where modern women give birth, this stool is designed to work with gravity rather than against it. The seat has a horseshoe-shaped opening that allows your baby to emerge without obstruction, while the back provides support for your upper body during the intense pushing phase of labor. But here's what makes the Greek birthing chamber truly remarkable. It's designed to accommodate the complex social dynamics of ancient childbirth. Your mother sits behind you on the birthing stool, providing physical and emotional support while staying out of the midwife's way. Other female relatives and experienced neighbors position themselves around the room where they can offer encouragement, assist with supplies, or take turns supporting your weight during difficult contractions. The spiritual arrangements in your birthing chamber reveal how seriously Greeks take the supernatural aspects of childbirth. Small statues of Artemis and Hera are positioned where you can see them during labor, serving as focal points for prayer and reminders of divine protection. Burning herbs like frankincense and myrrh not only provide pleasant aromas, but also create sacred smoke that's believed to carry your prayers directly to the gods. Your midwife has arranged her tools and supplies around the room with the precision of a surgeon preparing for a complex operation. Clean linens are stacked within easy reach. Sharp knives for cutting the umbilical cord are sterilized with wine, and various herbal preparations are mixed and ready for different stages of labor. She's also prepared emergency supplies for complications, binding cloths to control bleeding, bitter herbs to prevent infection, and strong wine to dull pain if the delivery becomes prolonged or difficult. The temperature and atmosphere of the birthing chamber are carefully controlled to create optimal conditions for both mother and baby. A small fire burns continuously, providing warmth and light while also serving as a focal point for prayers and offerings. The heat helps keep your muscles relaxed during labor, while the flickering flames create a hypnotic visual rhythm that some women find calming during contractions. Greek birthing chambers include fascinating details that seem to anticipate modern understanding of birth psychology. Mirrors are removed or covered, as reflection is believed to confuse the baby's spirit during the transition from womb to world. Similarly, all knots in the room, from clothing ties to rope or fabric, are untied to symbolically remove any obstacles to your baby's emergence. Historians still argue whether these practices had any measurable psychological benefits or were purely symbolic gestures. The acoustic environment of your birthing chamber is as carefully managed as the visual elements. Doors are kept closed to muffle sounds from the outside world that might distract or frighten you during labor. The women attending your birth speak in lowered voices, creating a cocoon of calm communication that contrasts sharply with the intensity of what your body is experiencing. Some midwives even hum or chant softly during labor, using rhythm and melody to help you manage pain and maintain focus. Privacy in the birthing chamber is absolute and sacred. No men are allowed except in the most extreme emergencies, and even then, male physicians are expected to work by touch alone without looking directly at your body. This creates a feminine sanctuary where you can labor without modesty or shame, surrounded only by women who understand exactly what you're experiencing because they've survived it themselves. The final preparations in your birthing chamber acknowledge that this might be the last room you ever see. Personal items that hold special meaning are placed where you can touch them for comfort. Perhaps a piece of jewelry from your mother, a small token from your husband, or a childhood object that connects you to happy. Your body betrays you with the first unmistakable contraction, a gripping sensation that feels like invisible hands squeezing your belly with deliberate, rhythmic force. And you realize that all your months of preparation have led to this moment when ancient Greek remedies and generations of women's wisdom will either save your life or prove tragically inadequate. The pain isn't just physical. It's your body's announcement that you're about to enter the most dangerous hours of your existence, armed only with herbal concoctions, positioning techniques, and the accumulated knowledge of women who have survived what you're about to endure. Your midwife immediately springs into action, her experienced hands feeling your belly to assess the baby's position, while she calculates how far your labor has progressed. She's been through this dance hundreds of times, reading the subtle signs that your body broadcasts about what's happening inside. The frequency and intensity of your contractions tell her whether you're in for a quick delivery or a prolonged ordeal, and she adjusts her preparations accordingly. Her calm demeanor masks the fact that she's constantly evaluating whether this birth will be routine or require her most advanced skills to keep you alive. The first remedy she offers you is a bitter-tasting concoction made from willow bark and honey, a mixture that modern science would recognize as containing natural salicylates, compounds similar to aspirin that can help with pain management. Greek midwives discovered through trial and error that certain plants could ease labor pains, though they had no understanding of the chemical mechanisms involved. You drink it gratefully, trusting in the experience of countless women who have used the same mixture before you. As your contractions intensify, your midwife guides you through the ancient Greek understanding of labor progression, which divides the process into distinct phases that she's learned to recognize and manage. The first stage involves what she calls opening the gateway, your body's gradual preparation for the baby's passage. During this phase, she encourages you to move around the birthing chamber, believing that walking and changing positions helps the baby find the best pathway through your pelvis. But here's where Greek labor management gets fascinatingly sophisticated. Your midwife employs positioning techniques that wouldn't seem out of place in a modern birthing center. She has you squat, kneel, and lean against walls or furniture, using gravity and different angles to help your baby descend. When contractions become particularly intense, she shows you how to rock your hips in circular motions, a technique that provides some pain relief while potentially helping the baby rotate into the optimal position for delivery. The herbal arsenal at your midwife's disposal represents generations of experimentation with plant-based medicine. She prepares a steam bath using herbs like pennyroyal and artemisia, having you breathe the aromatic vapors that are supposed to relax your muscles and ease pain. Some midwives use opium poppy preparations for women experiencing extremely difficult labor, though this powerful medicine is reserved for the most desperate situations due to its dangerous side effects. Your female relatives take turns supporting you physically and emotionally as labor progresses. Your mother holds your hands during contractions, sharing whispered stories of her own labor experiences to distract you from the pain. Your sister-in-law massages your lower back with warm olive oil infused with lavender, while your grandmother offers sips of wine mixed with honey to keep your strength up during the long ordeal ahead. Greek midwives understand that labor isn't just a physical process. It's also a mental and spiritual challenge that requires careful management of your emotional state. Your midwife watches for signs of panic or despair, knowing that a woman who becomes frightened or overwhelmed is more likely to experience complications. She uses a combination of practical reassurance and spiritual encouragement, reminding you that Artemis herself is guiding the process, and that countless women before you have survived this same trial. The timing of herbal interventions follows protocols that have been refined through generations of observation. Early in labor, your midwife gives you mild preparations designed to keep you calm and maintain your strength. As contractions intensify, she switches to stronger mixtures that focus on pain relief and muscle relaxation. If labor becomes prolonged, she has emergency herbs that can stimulate stronger contractions or help control bleeding if complications arise. But the most crucial aspect of Greek labor management is the midwife's ability to recognize when normal labor is becoming dangerous. She monitors your pulse by feeling your wrist, watches the color of your skin for signs of excessive blood loss, and evaluates your mental state to determine if you're developing complications that could threaten your life. When she spots warning signs, she knows which emergency measures to employ and when to call for additional help from other experienced women in the community. The physical positions you adopt during labor aren't just practical. They're also spiritual postures that connect you to the goddesses who protect women in childbirth. Squatting is associated with Artemis, who delivered her brother Apollo while her mother Leto was in a similar position. Kneeling represents supplication to Hera, asking for her protection during your most vulnerable moments. These positions serve dual purposes, providing both physical benefits and spiritual comfort during your ordeal. Greek labor management includes some techniques that seem surprisingly modern in their understanding of pain psychology. Your midwife teaches you breathing patterns that help manage contractions, though she explains them as ways to breathe prayers to the goddesses, rather than as pain management techniques. She also uses distraction methods, having the women around you tell stories or sing softly during contractions to help keep your mind focused on something other than the pain. The progression of labor is marked by specific milestones that your midwife recognizes and celebrates. When your waters break, she offers thanks to Artemis for clearing the baby's path. When you begin feeling the urge to push, she prepares the birthing stool and makes final adjustments to the room's arrangement. Each stage brings its own challenges and requires different herbal preparations, positioning techniques, and emotional support strategies. Historians still argue whether Greek midwives had any real understanding of the anatomy and physiology of labor, or if their techniques were purely empirical observations passed down through generations. What's certain is that their methods included both practices that modern medicine would approve of and others that could be dangerous or counterproductive. The key to their success was the midwife's experience in recognizing which techniques to use for which women, and when to adapt their approach based on how individual labors progressed. As your contractions reach their peak intensity and the time for delivery approaches, your midwife makes final preparations for the most dangerous phase of your ordeal, knowing that everything she's done so far has been preparation for the critical moments when your baby finally emerges, and you discover whether all the ancient wisdom and careful preparation will be enough to bring you both safe. Your world has narrowed to the excruciating rhythm of contractions that feel like your body is being torn apart from the inside. And you're discovering that ancient Greek pain management during childbirth combines genuine medical knowledge with desperate attempts to find relief when your very survival hangs in the balance. The agony you're experiencing isn't just physical discomfort. It's a primal force that threatens to overwhelm your consciousness. And the methods your midwife uses to help you cope represent centuries of trial and error by women who understood that managing pain could mean the difference between a successful delivery and a tragic death. Your midwife reaches for her most potent weapon against your suffering, a preparation made from opium poppy that she's been saving for this moment. The Greeks discovered that certain plants could provide powerful pain relief, though they had no understanding of the neurochemical processes involved. She mixes the opium with wine and honey, creating a bittersweet concoction that will dull your pain while hopefully maintaining enough awareness for you to participate in your own delivery. This isn't casual drug use. It's carefully calculated medicine that could save your life if labor becomes unbearably prolonged. But opium isn't the only tool in your midwife's arsenal against pain. She prepares a steam tent using herbs like cannabis and henbane, having you breathe the intoxicating vapors that create a dreamlike state where pain becomes distant and manageable. Modern pharmacology would recognize these plants as containing genuine psychoactive compounds, though Greek midwives discovered their effects through generations of desperate experimentation. The goal isn't to eliminate pain entirely. That would be impossible, but to make it bearable enough for you to function during the hours of labor ahead. The physical techniques your midwife employs for pain management seem surprisingly sophisticated for their time. She shows you how to breathe deeply and rhythmically, explaining that this feeds air to the baby, while actually helping you manage the intensity of contractions. Her hands massage specific points on your back and hips, applying pressure that provides genuine relief, even though she has no knowledge of the nerve pathways she's manipulating. These massage techniques have been passed down through generations of midwives who learned through experience which touches help and which ones don't. Your female attendants take turns providing different forms of pain relief that combine physical comfort with emotional support. Your mother holds cold cloths to your forehead during contractions, while your sister-in-law uses heated stones wrapped in fabric to provide warmth for your aching back. These simple interventions offer genuine comfort, though they're also distractions that help keep your mind focused on something other than the overwhelming sensations your body is producing. But here's where Greek pain management gets truly fascinating. It includes psychological techniques that modern medicine would recognize as legitimate pain psychology. Your midwife tells you stories during contractions, weaving tales of goddesses and heroic women who survived their own trials. These narratives serve multiple purposes. They distract you from pain, provide inspirational models of female strength, and create a rhythmic verbal pattern that helps you breathe through each contraction. The magical aspects of Greek pain relief involve incantations and ritual actions that may actually have had psychological benefits. Your midwife chants specific prayers while massaging your belly, creating a hypnotic rhythm that helps you enter a trance-like state where pain becomes more manageable. She also performs ritual actions like untying knots in your clothing or hair, symbolically releasing you from the bonds of pain. Whether these practices had any measurable effect or simply provided psychological comfort, they represent desperate attempts to find relief when medical options were limited. Greek midwives understand that different women respond to different pain management techniques, and they adapt their approach based on your individual needs and reactions. Some women benefit from movement and distraction, while others need stillness and quiet focus. Your midwife watches how you respond to various interventions, adjusting her techniques to find the combination that works best for your particular labor. This personalized approach shows remarkable sophistication in understanding that pain management isn't one size fits all. The social support system surrounding your labor provides its own form of pain relief through the reassurance of knowing you're not facing this ordeal alone. The women attending your birth share their own labor stories, describing how they survived similar pain and lived to tell about it. This creates a sense of continuity and shared experience that helps you understand that what you're experiencing is normal and survivable, even when it feels like your body is being destroyed. Your midwife also employs positioning techniques specifically designed to reduce pain rather than just facilitate delivery. She has you lean forward during contractions, which takes pressure off your spine and can provide significant relief. She shows you how to rock your pelvis in ways that work with your body's natural rhythms rather than fighting against them. These positions weren't developed through scientific study, but through generations of women discovering what felt better during their own labors. But the most important aspect of Greek pain management is the midwife's ability to recognize when pain becomes dangerous rather than just uncomfortable. She monitors your responses to ensure that you're not becoming overwhelmed to the point where complications might develop. When pain becomes truly unbearable, she knows which emergency measures to employ and when to escalate her interventions to stronger herbs or more aggressive techniques. The spiritual dimensions of pain management involve invoking divine assistance through specific prayers and offerings made during labor. Your midwife burns incense and makes small offerings to Artemis, asking the goddess to ease your suffering and guide the delivery. Whether this provides actual divine intervention or simply psychological comfort, it represents another tool in the limited arsenal available to help you survive this ordeal. Historians still argue whether Greek pain management techniques were genuinely effective, or if they simply provided psychological comfort to women who had no other options. What's certain is that these methods represented the best available knowledge at the time, developed through centuries of women's experiences, and passed down through generations of midwives who understood that managing pain was crucial to successful childbirth. As your contractions reach their most intense phase and delivery approaches, your midwife prepares to employ her most advanced pain management techniques. Knowing that the next few hours will test, you're guided to the ancient birthing stool that represents centuries of accumulated wisdom about the mechanics of delivery. And as you settle into this specially designed piece of furniture, you realize that Greek women discovered principles about gravity-assisted birth that modern obstetrics would later validate through scientific study. This isn't just a chair. It's a carefully engineered tool that positions your body to work with natural forces rather than against them, giving you the maximum possible advantage during the most physically demanding moments of your life. The birthing stool beneath you feels sturdy and well-worn, its wooden surface polished smooth by the countless women who have used it before you. The horseshoe-shaped seat opening allows your baby to emerge without obstruction, while supporting your weight during the intense pushing phase of labor. The back of the stool is angled to provide support for your spine, while keeping your torso upright, a position that uses gravity to help your baby descend through the birth canal. Greek craftsmen designed these stools based on generations of observation about which positions seem to result in easier deliveries and fewer complications. Your midwife positions herself in front of you, ready to receive your baby and manage any complications that might arise during delivery. She's arranged clean linens beneath the stool to catch blood and other fluids, while keeping her tools within easy reach. Her experienced hands will guide your baby's head as it emerges, checking for the umbilical cord around the neck, and ensuring that the shoulders don't become stuck, complications that could quickly turn a normal delivery into a life-threatening emergency. But here's what makes the Greek birthing position truly revolutionary. It allows you to maintain some control over the delivery process, rather than being a passive patient. You can adjust your position slightly, lean forward or backward as needed, and use your leg muscles to help with pushing. Your mother sits behind you on the stool, providing physical support and encouragement while staying out of the midwife's working space. This arrangement creates a triangle of support that keeps you stable while giving your birth attendants room to work. The squatting position you adopt on the birthing stool opens your pelvic outlet to its maximum diameter, providing your baby with the largest possible space for passage. Greek midwives discovered through experience that women who delivered in upright positions seemed to have shorter labors and fewer complications, though they had no understanding of the anatomical reasons why this worked. Modern obstetrics has confirmed that upright positions during delivery can reduce the length of labor and decrease the risk of certain complications. Your female relatives arrange themselves around the birthing stool, where they can provide different types of support during the delivery. One woman holds your hands, allowing you to squeeze during contractions while providing emotional reassurance. Another supports your back if you need to lean forward during pushing. A third keeps cool cloths ready for your forehead and warm drinks to maintain your strength. This collaborative approach to birth support reflects the understanding that delivery is a community effort requiring multiple people working together. The physical sensations you experience while using the birthing stool are intense, but manageable compared to other positions you might have tried. The upright posture allows you to feel your baby's progress more clearly, giving you better feedback about when and how to push effectively. Your midwife can also see what's happening more easily, allowing her to provide better guidance and identify potential problems before they become dangerous. Greek birthing stools include design features that seem remarkably thoughtful for their time. Some have handholds carved into the armrests, giving you something to grip during contractions. Others have footrests positioned to support your legs without putting pressure on your abdomen. The seat height is calculated to position your pelvis at the optimal angle for delivery, while keeping you comfortable enough to maintain the position for extended periods if labor becomes prolonged. Your midwife uses the birthing stool as a platform for performing various delivery techniques that wouldn't be possible with other positions. She can easily support your perineum to prevent tearing, guide your baby's shoulders through the birth canal, and quickly manage the umbilical cord if it becomes tangled. The stool also allows her to work at a comfortable height, reducing her own fatigue during what might be a long delivery process. But the birthing stool isn't just a practical tool. It's also a sacred object that connects you to generations of women who have survived childbirth before you. Many stools are decorated with symbols of protective goddesses or carved with prayers for safe delivery. Some families pass their birthing stools down through generations, creating a tangible link between mothers, daughters, and granddaughters who have all used the same piece of furniture during their most vulnerable moments. The transition from labor to active pushing while seated on the birthing stool marks a crucial turning point in your delivery. Your midwife can see your baby's head beginning to crown, and she prepares for the final stage of birth with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. This is when her skills will be tested most severely, as she manages the delicate process of guiding your baby into the world while protecting both of you from the complications that can arise during delivery. The collaborative nature of birth on the birthing stool creates a sense of shared purpose among all the women present. Everyone has a role to play in supporting you through the final phase of labor, from the midwife managing the medical aspects to your relatives providing emotional and physical support. This team approach reflects the Greek understanding that successful childbirth requires the combined wisdom and effort of multiple experienced women working together. Historians still argue whether Greek birthing stools were superior to other delivery positions available at the time, or if their effectiveness was primarily psychological, giving women a sense of control and dignity during an otherwise overwhelming experience. Your worst fears are about to be realized as complications begin to emerge during your delivery, transforming what might have been a routine birth into a life-threatening emergency that will test every skill your midwife possesses and potentially claim your life, despite months of careful preparation. The baby you've been carrying for 9 months is presenting in a breech position, buttocks first instead of head down, a dangerous situation that ancient Greek midwives faced with limited tools and knowledge, relying on experience, intuition, and desperate techniques that sometimes worked miracles and sometimes failed catastrophically. Your midwife's demeanor changes instantly when she realizes what's happening, her calm confidence replaced by focused intensity as she assesses the situation and begins implementing emergency procedures that represent the difference between life and death for both you and your baby. She can feel the baby's position through your belly and knows that breech delivery is one of the most dangerous complications she might face. Without modern medical interventions like cesarean sections, she must rely on manual techniques and positioning strategies that require exceptional skill and no small amount of luck. The first challenge is determining exactly how your baby is positioned and whether delivery is even possible without losing one or both of you. Your midwife performs an internal examination, using her hands to feel the baby's position and assess whether there's enough room in your pelvis for a breech delivery. This intimate examination is both painful and terrifying for you, as you understand that her findings will determine whether you have any chance of survival. Greek midwives developed surprisingly sophisticated techniques for evaluating complicated presentations, though their knowledge was based entirely on experience rather than anatomical understanding. But here's where Greek emergency obstetrics reveals both its limitations and its remarkable ingenuity. Your midwife begins attempting to manually turn the baby into a head-down position, a dangerous procedure that requires tremendous skill and carries significant risks. She applies external pressure to your belly while simultaneously manipulating the baby's position from inside, trying to encourage the child to flip into the proper presentation. This technique, called external version, is still used by modern obstetricians, though ancient midwives developed it through trial and error rather than scientific understanding. The pain you experience during these manipulation attempts is excruciating. Combining the agony of advanced labor with the additional trauma of having your midwife's hands working inside your body. The women attending your birth hold you steady and provide what comfort they can. But everyone understands that this is a desperate situation where gentle treatment is impossible. Your midwife works quickly, knowing that prolonged manipulation increases the risks for both you and your baby. But she also knows that failing to correct the presentation could mean death for you both. When external manipulation fails to turn the baby, your midwife faces the terrifying prospect of attempting a breech delivery, a procedure that requires precise timing and technique to avoid catastrophic complications. She positions you differently on the birthing stool, trying to find an angle that will give the baby the best possible chance of emerging safely. The normal delivery process is completely reversed, with the baby's body emerging first while the head, the largest part, remains trapped inside your pelvis until the final moments. Greek midwives understood that breech delivery required a completely different approach from normal birth, and they developed specific techniques for managing this emergency. Your midwife supports the baby's body as it emerges, being careful not to pull or twist in ways that could cause injury. She knows that the most dangerous moment comes when the baby's head finally emerges, as this is when the umbilical cord is most likely to become compressed, cutting off the baby's oxygen supply and causing brain damage or death. The emotional toll of a complicated delivery affects everyone in the birthing chamber, as the women attending your birth understand that they might be witnessing a tragedy rather than a celebration. Your mother whispers prayers to Artemis, begging the goddess to intervene and save both you and your grandchild. The midwife's assistants prepare emergency supplies, herbs to control bleeding, wine to sterilize wounds, and clean linens to wrap either a living baby or a body that didn't survive the ordeal. But complications can escalate beyond even breech presentation, and your midwife must be prepared for multiple simultaneous emergencies. If the umbilical cord becomes wrapped around the baby's neck during the difficult delivery, she has only seconds to unwrap it before brain damage occurs. If you begin bleeding excessively, she must manage the delivery while simultaneously trying to control hemorrhaging that could kill you within minutes. These split-second decisions require experience and intuition that can't be taught through books or formal training. The most heart-wrenching decisions come when your midwife must choose between saving your life and saving the baby's life, situations where ancient medicine offers no good options. If the baby becomes stuck and can't be delivered alive, she might need to perform embryotomy, dismembering the baby inside the womb to save the mother's life. This horrific procedure is a last resort that traumatizes everyone involved, but it's sometimes the only way to prevent losing both mother and child. Your midwife also watches for signs of other complications that could develop during a difficult delivery. Shoulder dystocia, when the baby's shoulders become stuck after the head emerges, requires specific maneuvers to free the baby without causing permanent injury. Uterine rupture, where the intense contractions actually tear the uterus, causes massive internal bleeding that is almost always fatal without modern surgical intervention. Recognizing these complications early and knowing how to respond separates experienced midwives from novices. The psychological impact of witnessing or experiencing complicated birth creates lasting trauma for everyone involved. Women who survive difficult deliveries often develop intense fear of future pregnancies, while those who lose babies or nearly die themselves may never fully recover emotionally. The attendants who watch these emergencies unfold carry the memories with them, and midwives who lose patience question their skills and knowledge, wondering if they could have done something different to change the outcome. Historians still argue whether Greek midwives were genuinely skilled at managing birth complications, or if successful outcomes were primarily due to luck and the resilience of the women they treated. What's certain is that these practitioners developed techniques for handling emergencies that showed remarkable understanding of the mechanics of difficult delivery, even without modern medical knowledge or equipment. As your complicated delivery reaches its crisis point, and your midwife employs every technique she knows to save your life and your baby's life, you can only hope that her experience and the divine intervention you've prayed for will be enough to see you through this ultimate test of survival in the dangerous world of ancient Greek childbirth. Your baby's first cry pierces the tense silence of the birthing chamber, announcing not just successful delivery, but the beginning of a crucial period where life and death decisions will be made about this new human being who has just emerged from your body bloodied, exhausted, and entirely dependent on the actions taken in the next few minutes. This moment isn't just about medical care for your newborn. It's about family judgment, social acceptance, and cultural practices that will determine whether your child lives to see another day or faces the harsh reality of ancient Greek infant mortality and abandonment. Your midwife immediately begins the critical assessment that every newborn faces in ancient Greece, examining your baby for signs of health, deformity, or weakness that might influence the family's decision about whether to keep or abandon the child. She checks for obvious physical abnormalities, listens to the baby's breathing, and observes the child's movement and response to stimuli. This isn't just medical evaluation. It's a life-or-death inspection that reflects the harsh realities of a society where resources are limited and disabled children are often seen as burdens rather than blessings. The umbilical cord cutting ceremony represents one of the most symbolic moments in ancient Greek childbirth. As your midwife severs the physical connection between you and your child, while invoking prayers to ensure the baby's independent survival, she uses a sharp bronze knife that's been sterilized in wine, cutting the cord at a specific length that's believed to influence the child's future health. The remaining cord stump is treated with various herbal preparations designed to prevent infection, though Greek midwives have no understanding of the bacterial processes that make this care essential. But here's where Greek newborn care reveals both practical wisdom and dangerous ignorance. Your midwife immediately clears the baby's airways and stimulates breathing, techniques that modern medicine would recognize as essential newborn resuscitation. However, she also performs rituals like placing the baby on the ground briefly to connect the child to the earth, or exposing the infant to cold air to strengthen the constitution, practices that could be harmful to a vulnerable newborn who needs warmth and protection. The initial cleaning and examination of your newborn follows protocols that have been developed through generations of midwifery experience. Your baby is washed with warm water and wine, substances that provide both cleansing and mild antiseptic properties. The midwife examines every part of the baby's body, checking for the signs of normalcy that Greek society expects: proper formation of limbs, clear eyes, normal genitalia, and appropriate responses to touch and sound. Any deviation from these expectations could influence the family's decision about the child's fate. Your husband waits outside the birthing chamber for the midwife's report about both your condition and the baby's health and gender. In Greek society, fathers have the legal right to accept or reject their newborn children, a decision that must be made within the first few days of life. If your baby is a healthy boy, acceptance is almost guaranteed. If you've delivered a girl, especially if you already have daughters, the decision becomes more complicated. Disabled children of either gender face the highest risk of rejection and abandonment. The swaddling process that follows the initial examination isn't just about keeping your baby warm. It's about shaping the child's development according to Greek beliefs about proper infant care. Your midwife wraps the baby tightly in linen cloths, believing that this practice will help the child's limbs grow straight and strong. The swaddling is so tight that it restricts most movement, reflecting the Greek belief that newborns need external structure to develop properly. Modern pediatricians would be horrified by how restrictive this swaddling is, but ancient Greeks saw it as essential infant care. The first feeding decisions reveal the complex intersection of practical needs and cultural beliefs surrounding newborn care. If you're healthy enough to nurse, your baby will receive colostrum, the first milk that's rich in antibodies and nutrients. However, Greek medical theory suggests that this early milk might be harmful to newborns, leading some families to delay breastfeeding for several days. During this delay, babies receive honey water or other substitutes that provide calories but lack the immunological benefits of breast milk. Your female relatives begin the process of integrating your newborn into the family's social and spiritual life through various naming and blessing rituals. The baby won't receive an official name until the 10th day of life, but temporary names or nicknames are used during this vulnerable period. Small amulets are placed near the baby to ward off evil spirits, and prayers are offered to various gods and goddesses who protect infants and children. But the most sobering aspect of newborn care in ancient Greece is the reality that many babies don't survive their first weeks of life, regardless of how carefully they're tended. Infections, feeding difficulties, and various complications claim a significant percentage of newborns, creating an emotional distance that helps families cope with frequent infant mortality. Your midwife has seen countless babies die despite her best efforts, and she knows that celebrating too early can lead to heartbreak if the child doesn't survive the critical first month. The decision about whether to keep your baby becomes final when your husband either picks up the child, acceptance, or turns away, rejection. Rejected babies are typically abandoned at specific locations where they might be found and raised by others, or they're left to die from exposure. This practice, called exposure, is legal and socially acceptable in ancient Greece, reflecting the harsh economic realities of families who can't afford to raise children with disabilities or more daughters than they can provide dowries for. Greek newborn care includes some practices that seem surprisingly modern in their understanding of infant needs. Babies are kept warm, fed frequently, and monitored closely for signs of illness or distress. However, these practices coexist with others that modern medicine would consider dangerous, such as giving newborns wine to strengthen their constitution, or exposing them to cold temperatures to toughen them up for the challenges of life. The spiritual aspects of newborn care involve complex rituals designed to protect the child from supernatural threats that ancient Greeks believed were particularly dangerous during the first weeks of life. Evil spirits were thought to be attracted to newborns, and various protective measures, from hanging iron objects near the baby to specific prayers and offerings, were employed to create a spiritual shield around the vulnerable infant. Historians still argue whether Greek newborn care practices were generally beneficial or harmful to infant survival rates, as they combined genuine medical knowledge with cultural beliefs that sometimes conflicted with the baby's physical needs. What's certain is that these practices reflected the best understanding available at the time, developed through generations of experience, with the challenges of keeping newborns alive in a world without modern medical knowledge or technology. As your baby settles into life outside the womb and your family begins the process of deciding, the blood has been cleaned away, the afterbirth disposed of according to custom, but your ordeal isn't over yet. In fact, according to ancient Greek beliefs, you've just entered one of the most spiritually dangerous periods of your entire life. You're considered polluted, not dirty in the way we might think of it, but contaminated in a religious sense that could bring misfortune to your entire household if not properly addressed. You lie on your birthing bed, exhausted but alert to the flurry of activity around you. The midwife begins the first of many purification rituals that will dominate the next several days. She sprinkles sacred water around your bed, muttering incantations that have been passed down through generations of women. The water isn't just any water. It's been blessed at a shrine of Artemis or drawn from a sacred spring at dawn while reciting specific prayers. Your newborn receives attention too. The baby must be purified before it can be considered a true member of the family. The midwife examines the child carefully, looking for any signs that might indicate divine displeasure or supernatural interference during the birth. A birthmark in an unusual place, a cry that sounds too much like an animal, or even being born with a caul, that thin membrane sometimes covering a baby's head, all require special rituals to counteract potential bad luck. The purification process involves more than just symbolic cleansing. You're given a bitter tea made from wormwood and other herbs that are believed to drive out evil spirits, while also helping your body recover from childbirth. The taste is absolutely revolting, but you drink it anyway because the alternative, risking spiritual contamination, could affect not just you but your entire family line. Historians still argue whether these purification rituals were primarily medical or spiritual in nature, but the reality is they served both purposes. The enforced rest period, the herbal treatments, and the careful monitoring by experienced women all provided practical benefits alongside the spiritual ones. You're not allowed to leave your room for 7 days, which coincidentally gives your body crucial time to begin healing without the demands of household duties. Your husband isn't allowed to touch you during this period, which might actually come as a relief given how tender and sore you feel. The restriction extends to sacred spaces too. You won't be permitted to enter temples or participate in religious festivals for several weeks. This isn't punishment but protection, both for you and for the community that could be affected by your temporary state of ritual impurity. The women attending you perform daily cleansing ceremonies, burning specific herbs like juniper and myrrh to purify the air around you. The smoke is thick and aromatic, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere in your recovery room. They also hang protective amulets around your bed, small clay figures of Artemis, iron nails to ward off evil spirits, and strips of papyrus inscribed with protective spells. On the 3rd day after birth, a special ceremony takes place. The midwife brings in a bowl of olive oil that's been consecrated at a shrine of Hera, goddess of marriage and childbirth. She anoints your forehead, wrists, and the soles of your feet while reciting prayers for your continued health and fertility. The oil feels warm and soothing against your skin, and there's something deeply comforting about this ancient ritual that connects you to countless generations of mothers before you. Your baby undergoes its own purification on the 5th day. The infant is bathed in water mixed with wine and honey, then wrapped in a clean cloth that's been blessed by the family's patron deity. If you've given birth to a son, the ceremony is more elaborate. He represents the continuation of the family line, and requires extra protection from malevolent forces that might try to harm him. The purification period also involves dietary restrictions that would make a modern nutritionist weep. You're forbidden from eating certain foods considered spiritually contaminating, beans, which were associated with the underworld, and certain types of fish that were sacred to various deities. Instead, you're fed a bland diet of barley porridge, diluted wine, and honey cakes. It's not exactly gourmet cuisine, but it's believed to keep evil spirits at bay while nourishing your recovering body. The most elaborate purification ritual occurs on the 7th day, when you're finally allowed to leave your birthing chamber. The midwife leads you in a ceremonial bath using water that's been infused with sacred herbs and flower petals. The water is lukewarm at best. Remember, heating large quantities of water is no simple task in ancient Greece, but it feels luxurious after days of sponge baths and herbal wipes. As you emerge from your ritual bath, you're dressed in clean clothes that have been purified through exposure to sacred smoke. The old birthing garments are either burned or buried, taking any lingering spiritual contamination with them. It's a symbolic rebirth for you as well as your child. You're being welcomed back into the community as a purified mother, rather than a ritually dangerous woman who has just given birth. The final purification involves a visit to the local shrine of Artemis or Hera, where you make offerings of thanks for surviving childbirth and protecting your child. You bring honey cakes, small clay votives shaped like body parts, particularly wombs and breasts, and sometimes even a lock of your hair as a symbol of your dedication to the goddess who watched over you during your ordeal. These purification rituals might seem excessive to modern minds, but they served important psychological and social functions. They marked your transition from the dangerous liminal state of childbirth back to normal life, provided structure during a vulnerable time, and ensured that experienced women monitored your recovery closely. The spiritual framework gave meaning to the physical discomfort, and the purification rituals are complete, but your real recovery is just beginning. You're finally allowed to rejoin the household, though you move slowly and carefully, still tender from the birthing process. The next several weeks will test your endurance in ways that would challenge even the strongest modern woman. Armed as you are with nothing but ancient herbal remedies and the collective wisdom of the women around you, your body feels like it's been through a war, which in many ways it has. The afterpains, those sharp cramping sensations as your uterus contracts back to its normal size, catch you off guard throughout the day. Modern women get prescription pain medication for this. You get willow bark tea and the sage advice to breathe through it. The willow bark actually contains the same active ingredient as aspirin, so it's not entirely useless, but the dosage is hit or miss, and the bitter taste makes you wonder if the cure isn't worse than the ailment. Sleep becomes your most precious and elusive commodity. Your newborn has no concept of day and night, demanding feeding every few hours with the insistent cry that seems designed by nature to prevent you from ignoring it. You're lucky if you get 3 consecutive hours of rest, and even that's often interrupted by your own discomfort or the needs of your other children if you have them. The women of your household take turns helping you, but their assistance comes with a steady stream of advice that would drive a modern mother to distraction. Your mother-in-law insists that eating too much fresh fruit will make your breast milk sour. Your sister warns you against looking in mirrors too often, claiming it will make the baby vain. Your neighbor drops by with the cheerful observation that you look terrible and should try chewing mint leaves to improve your complexion. Breastfeeding presents its own challenges in an era before proper nutrition education or breast pumps. If you're struggling with milk production, the recommended solution is drinking barley water mixed with fennel seeds. a remedy that actually has some scientific merit, though nobody in ancient Greece understands why. If you develop mastitis, a painful infection of the breast tissue, you're treated with warm compresses made from heated wine and aromatic herbs. It's not entirely ineffective, but it's also not the antibiotics that would clear up the infection in days rather than weeks. Your diet during recovery is supposed to promote healing, but it's based more on superstition than nutrition. You're encouraged to eat plenty of eggs and drink wine mixed with water, which isn't terrible advice. However, you're also told to avoid vegetables that grow in the ground because they might make you earthy and unable to produce good milk. The logic is questionable, but at least the eggs provide protein your recovering body desperately needs. Historians still argue whether ancient Greek women had access to effective contraception during the postpartum period, but the evidence suggests your options are limited and unreliable. Some women use pessaries made from honey and crocodile dung. Yes, you read that correctly, while others rely on the folk wisdom that breastfeeding prevents pregnancy. This latter belief has just enough truth to be dangerous. While nursing can suppress ovulation, it's not a guarantee, and many women find themselves pregnant again within months of giving birth. The emotional challenges of recovery are perhaps the most difficult to bear. You're expected to be grateful for surviving childbirth and producing a healthy child, but the reality is more complicated. You feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and sometimes resentful of the constant demands on your body and attention. These feelings are normal by modern standards, but in ancient Greece, expressing them could be seen as ingratitude to the gods or weakness of character. Your husband, meanwhile, has returned to his normal routine with barely a pause. He might acknowledge your discomfort with a pat on the head and a reminder to rest when you can, but the bulk of childcare and household management still falls to you. If you're wealthy enough to have slaves, they help with the heavier work, but the responsibility for your newborn's well-being rests squarely on your shoulders. The herbal treatments available to you are a mixture of effective remedies and complete nonsense. Chamomile tea genuinely helps with anxiety and sleep, while lavender oil can ease muscle tension when massaged into sore areas. On the other hand, you're also advised to wear amulets made from specific stones that are supposed to promote healing, and to avoid stepping on cracks in the floor lest you disrupt your body's natural balance. Physical therapy, as we understand it, doesn't exist. Instead, you're told to gradually increase your activity as you feel stronger, with gentle walks around the courtyard being the most strenuous exercise recommended. The concept of pelvic floor exercises is unknown, which means many women suffer from long-term complications that could have been prevented with proper rehabilitation. Your social interactions during recovery are carefully managed. Close female relatives and friends visit regularly, bringing food and gossip from the outside world. But you're not expected to entertain or maintain the elaborate social courtesies that normally govern women's relationships. This is actually a relief. Pretending to be gracious while feeling like you've been trampled by oxen would be an exhausting performance. The recovery period officially ends when you're able to resume all your normal household duties, typically around 6 to 8 weeks after birth. By then, your body has mostly healed, though you'll carry the physical reminders of childbirth for the rest of your life. Some women emerge from this period stronger and more confident, having proven their ability to bring life into the world. Others find themselves more fragile, marked by the ordeal in ways that never fully fade. As you navigate these challenging weeks, you're sustained by the knowledge that you've joined an ancient sisterhood of women who have endured and survived the ultimate test of feminine strength. The harsh reality settles over you like a cold morning mist as you hold your precious newborn close to your chest. Despite all the prayers, rituals, and careful preparations, you're painfully aware that the odds are stacked against your child's survival. In ancient Greece, nearly half of all babies born won't live to see their first birthday, and this statistical nightmare haunts every mother's dreams. You've already lost one child, a daughter born 3 years ago who seemed healthy at birth, but died during a fever epidemic that swept through your neighborhood. The memory of her tiny, still form wrapped in the burial cloth still wakes you in the middle of the night, and you find yourself checking your newborn's breathing obsessively, pressing your ear to that fragile chest to hear the reassuring rhythm of life. The causes of infant mortality in your time are numerous and often unavoidable. Infections that modern antibiotics could cure in days become death sentences. A simple bout of diarrhea can dehydrate a baby so quickly that by the time you realize the severity, it's too late to save them. Respiratory infections, probably pneumonia or what we'd recognize as whooping cough, claim babies with terrifying efficiency during the colder months. Your neighbor Penthesilea lost her son just last month to what the physician diagnosed as an imbalance of the humors. The baby had been thriving, gaining weight and nursing well, when suddenly he developed a fever and became listless. Within 3 days, he was gone, leaving behind a grief-stricken mother who now questions every decision she made during those final days. She wonders obsessively whether she should have called the physician sooner, tried different herbs, or prayed more fervently to different gods. The vulnerability of newborns to disease is compounded by the limited understanding of hygiene and contagion. You do your best to keep your baby clean and protected, but you're fighting invisible enemies with inadequate weapons. The water you use for bathing might be contaminated with bacteria. The milk from the family goat could carry disease, and visitors to your home might unknowingly bring infections that prove fatal to your vulnerable infant. Historians still argue whether ancient Greek families became emotionally attached to their babies immediately or waited to see if the child would survive before fully investing their hearts. The evidence suggests a complex reality. Parents certainly loved their children, but they also developed psychological defenses against the constant threat of loss. Some families didn't name their babies for several days or even weeks, as if refusing to fully acknowledge the child's existence might somehow protect against the pain of losing them. The funeral rites for infants are heartbreaking in their simplicity. Unlike adults, who receive elaborate ceremonies and proper burials, babies who die within the first few days are often buried quietly in the courtyard or at the edge of family property. The mourning period is shorter too, perhaps a recognition that prolonged grief for such frequent losses would paralyze entire communities. You've learned to read the signs that might indicate your baby is struggling. A weak cry, difficulty nursing, or skin that feels too cool or too warm sends you into a panic of activity. Trying different herbal remedies, adjusting the baby's position, or frantically seeking advice from older women who might have experience with similar symptoms. Sometimes your interventions help, sometimes they make no difference at all. The emotional toll of constant vigilance is exhausting. You find yourself afraid to fully enjoy your baby's sweet moments. The first smile, the way tiny fingers curl around yours, the soft sounds of contentment after nursing, because allowing yourself to feel complete happiness seems like tempting fate. It's a survival mechanism that helps you function, but also robs you of some of the joy that should come with new motherhood. Other mothers in your community understand this tension without needing explanation. You share knowing looks when someone mentions how healthy their baby appears, because you all understand that health can vanish overnight. The communal nature of this anxiety creates bonds between women that transcend social class. Rich and poor mothers alike live with the same fundamental fear. When a baby in your neighborhood dies, The entire community of women mobilizes to support the grieving mother. They bring food, take over her household duties, and most importantly, they sit with her in her grief without trying to offer empty platitudes or quick comfort. They understand that this loss is both devastating and depressingly common, requiring a response that acknowledges both the magnitude of personal pain and the cruel realities of ancient life. The babies who do survive their first year are celebrated with genuine relief and gratitude. The 1-year mark represents a significant milestone. A child who lives that long has proven their basic hardiness and is much more likely to reach adulthood. Families often hold special ceremonies to mark this achievement, offering elaborate thanks to the gods and sometimes commissioning votive offerings to commemorate their child's survival. You develop superstitions and rituals designed to protect your baby, even though you know they might be useless. You hang specific amulets near the cradle, avoid certain activities while nursing, and make regular offerings to Artemis and Hera. These practices give you a sense of agency in a situation where you're largely powerless. And if they don't actually protect your child, at least they don't cause harm. The knowledge that so many babies don't survive creates an odd mixture of fatalism and fierce protectiveness in ancient mothers. You accept that death is always possible while simultaneously fighting against it with every tool at your disposal. This balance between acceptance and resistance becomes a defining characteristic of motherhood in your era, shaping how you relate to your children and how you understand your role as their protector in a dangerous world. The successful birth and survival of your child transforms your position in Greek society in ways that extend far beyond the walls of your home. You've proven your worth as a woman in the most fundamental way possible, by producing the next generation, and, if you're particularly blessed, by giving birth to sons who will carry on the family name and honor. This achievement elevates your status within your household and community, though the benefits come with increased expectations and pressures that will shape the rest of your life. Your husband looks at you with new respect, though it's the kind of respect reserved for a valuable possession rather than an equal partner. You fulfilled your primary purpose as a wife, demonstrating that the dowry he received and the marriage alliance he formed were sound investments. If your child is a son, your position becomes even more secure. You're now the mother of a potential heir, entitled to certain protections under Greek law that weren't guaranteed before. The change in your social standing becomes evident in small but significant ways. When women gather to spin wool or prepare for festivals, you're consulted more often about domestic matters and child-rearing. Your opinions carry more weight because you've proven your competence in life's most crucial test. Younger women, especially those recently married, seek your advice about pregnancy and childbirth, positioning you as a source of wisdom despite your own recent ordeal. Your mother-in-law, who may have viewed you with suspicion or outright hostility before, now treats you with grudging approval. You've secured the family's future and enhanced their social standing by successfully reproducing. She might even defend you against criticism from other relatives or neighbors, having a vested interest in protecting the mother of her grandchildren. However, this elevated status comes with enormous pressure to repeat your success. One child, while important, doesn't guarantee your long-term security. You're expected to produce multiple offspring, preferably sons, to ensure the family line continues even if tragedy strikes. Each subsequent pregnancy will be viewed as another test of your worth, another opportunity to prove your value to the household. Historians still argue whether motherhood in ancient Greece provided women with genuine empowerment or simply a different form of servitude, but the reality probably lies somewhere in between. You have more influence within your domestic sphere and greater security in your marriage, but you're also more tightly bound to your reproductive role and the expectations that come with it. The economic implications of successful motherhood are significant. Your children represent investment opportunities for the family, sons who might achieve political or military success, daughters who can be married advantageously to form beneficial alliances. Your husband now has stronger incentives to provide well for you, since your health and fertility directly impact the family's future prosperity. Your relationship with other women in the community becomes more complex. Those who haven't successfully given birth may view you with envy or resentment, while those who have lost children might find your success painful to witness. Conversely, you might feel superior to childless women or those whose babies didn't survive, even though you understand intellectually that luck played a major role in your good fortune. The religious dimension of your new status can't be overlooked. You're now qualified to participate in certain women's festivals and rituals that were previously closed to you. The Thesmophoria, an important festival honoring Demeter and celebrating female fertility, welcomes mothers as full participants rather than observers. Your offerings at temples carry more weight because you've demonstrated the gods' favor through successful childbirth. Your daily routine transforms to accommodate your elevated responsibilities. You're not just managing a household anymore. You're raising the next generation of citizens. This means increased attention to your children's education, health, and moral development. Sons require preparation for their eventual roles as heads of households and participants in civic life, while daughters need training in domestic skills and deportment that will make them attractive marriage prospects. The pressure to be an exemplary mother can be overwhelming. Every decision you make regarding your children's upbringing reflects on your competence and character. If your son grows up to be a wastrel or your daughter's reputation is compromised, you'll bear much of the blame. Success in child-rearing brings honor to your family, while failure can result in social disgrace that affects multiple generations. Your husband's attitude toward your physical relationship changes as well. While pregnancy and childbirth have proven your fertility, they've also reminded him of the risks involved in reproduction. He may be more cautious about frequent sexual relations, especially if you've had difficult births or if other women in the community have died in childbirth recently. This creates a delicate balance between his desire for more children and his recognition that each pregnancy could potentially be fatal. The transformation in your social status also affects your daughter's prospects. Being raised by a mother who successfully navigated childbirth and child-rearing gives them credibility when they eventually marry. Your reputation for competent motherhood becomes part of their dowry, so to speak, evidence that they come from a line of women capable of fulfilling their primary duty. Your new position brings access to information and social networks that were previously unavailable. Established mothers share knowledge about everything from herbal remedies to marriage negotiations, creating an informal but powerful communication system among women. This network provides practical benefits like childcare assistance and emotional support during difficult times. As you settle into your role as an established mother, you realize that successful childbirth was just the beginning of a lifelong identity that will define how others see you and how you see yourself as you reflect on your journey through ancient Greek childbirth. Lying in the quiet darkness of your recovery chamber with your sleeping child beside you, you can't help but marvel at the strange mixture of wisdom and ignorance that shaped your experience. Some of the practices that seemed primitive or even dangerous actually contained kernels of medical truth that wouldn't be recognized by formal medicine for thousands of years, while others were pure superstition dressed up in the authority of tradition. The emphasis on having experienced women attend births, for instance, prefigures the modern understanding of how crucial skilled birth attendants are for maternal and infant survival. Your midwife may not have understood germ theory or the mechanics of infection, but her insistence on clean hands and sterilized tools, achieved through boiling water and burning herbs, actually provided some protection against the bacterial infections that killed so many mothers and babies. The use of certain herbs during labor and recovery reveals an intuitive understanding of plant medicine that modern pharmacology is only beginning to appreciate. That willow bark tea you drank for pain relief contained salicin, the precursor to aspirin. The fennel seeds recommended for increasing milk production actually do have galactagogue properties that can stimulate lactation. Even some of the stranger remedies, like the honey-based treatments for wound care, had genuine antimicrobial effects that helped prevent infection. The positioning techniques used during labor, squatting, walking, and using birthing stools, align remarkably well with modern understanding of how gravity and pelvic positioning can facilitate delivery. Your midwife's instinct to keep you upright and mobile during early labor was actually more physiologically sound than the flat-on-your-back approach that dominated Western medicine for centuries afterward. Historians still argue whether the emotional support provided by the community of women during childbirth had measurable effects on outcomes, but modern research suggests that continuous labor support can significantly reduce the need for medical interventions and improve both maternal and infant well-being. The ancient Greek tradition of surrounding laboring women with experienced, supportive female relatives and friends anticipated what we now call doula care. The emphasis on immediate breastfeeding and skin-to-skin contact, though motivated by different beliefs, actually promoted bonding and helped establish successful nursing relationships. The colostrum your baby received in those first crucial days provided essential antibodies and nutrients that supported immune system development. Even though the Greeks understood this benefit in terms of divine protection rather than immunology. However, the gaps in ancient medical knowledge also created unnecessary suffering and danger. The theory of humoral imbalance led to treatments that sometimes worsened conditions rather than improving them. Bloodletting for postpartum complications, restrictive diets during pregnancy, and the use of potentially toxic substances like lead-based cosmetics all created risks that modern mothers don't face. The lack of understanding about infection and contagion meant that even well-intentioned care could spread disease. The practice of having multiple women examine laboring mothers could introduce harmful bacteria, while the reuse of instruments without proper sterilization created additional infection risks. Your survival depended as much on luck as on the skill of your attendants. The social and economic pressures surrounding childbirth in ancient Greece reveal both the value placed on motherhood and the precarious position of women whose worth was largely determined by their reproductive success. The honor accorded to successful mothers came at the cost of viewing women primarily as vessels for producing the next generation, rather than as individuals with inherent worth. Yet within these constraints, women created networks of support and accumulated practical knowledge that helped them navigate one of life's most challenging experiences. The tradition of women caring for women during childbirth fostered a unique form of female solidarity that transcended social class and family loyalties, creating bonds forged in shared vulnerability and mutual aid. The rituals and superstitions that surrounded ancient Greek childbirth while often medically irrelevant, served important psychological functions. They provided structure during chaos, offered a sense of control in situations where control was largely illusory, and created meaning from suffering. The elaborate purification ceremonies and protective rituals helped women process the trauma of childbirth and transition into their new roles as mothers. As medical science advanced, many of these traditional practices were dismissed as primitive superstition, sometimes throwing away beneficial elements along with the harmful ones. The art of midwifery was marginalized in favor of physician-attended births, and the communal support systems that sustained women through childbirth were replaced by more isolated, medicalized experiences. Modern obstetrics has made childbirth immeasurably safer than it was in ancient Greece, virtually eliminating maternal mortality in developed countries and dramatically reducing infant death rates. Pain relief options that would seem miraculous to ancient women are now routine, and the ability to detect and correct complications during pregnancy has transformed the experience of expectant mothers. Yet some aspects of ancient practice are being rediscovered and integrated into contemporary birth care. The value of continuous labor support, the benefits of mobility during labor, and the importance of immediate postpartum bonding are all gaining recognition in modern maternity care. The holistic approach to pregnancy and childbirth as life-changing experiences requiring community support, rather than mere medical events, resonates with many contemporary women seeking more personalized and empowering birth experiences. Your journey through ancient Greek childbirth, with all its dangers, discomforts, and small triumphs, represents humanity's eternal struggle to bring new life safely into the world. The courage you showed, the pain you endured, and the love you felt for your child connect you across millennia to mothers in every era and culture. The specific challenges may have changed, but the fundamental experience of bringing forth the next generation remains one of life's most profound and transformative passages. As you drift toward sleep, surrounded by the familiar sounds of your household settling into the quiet rhythms of night, you carry within you both the weight of ancient wisdom and the satisfaction of having survived one of life's greatest tests. Your child breathes softly beside you, a living testament to the power of women to create and nurture life, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The oil lamp flickers lower now, casting dancing shadows on the walls of your recovery chamber as the night deepens around you and your sleeping child. The dramatic urgency of labor and birth has given way to the gentler rhythms of healing and new motherhood, where each day brings small victories and quiet moments of wonder. You've survived something that claimed so many others, guided by the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of women who faced the same fears and found the same fierce love for their children. Your body still bears the marks of your journey, tender reminders of the incredible feat you've accomplished. But these will fade into badges of honor that connect you to the eternal sisterhood of mothers. The herbal steam still rises faintly from the bowl beside your bed, carrying the scent of chamomile and lavender into your dreams, while outside your window the ancient Greek night settles over olive groves and marble temples, unchanged by the miracle that just transformed your world forever. Tomorrow will bring new challenges as you learn to navigate motherhood in a world so different from our own. But tonight belongs to rest and recovery, to the soft breathing of new life and the deep satisfaction of having endured. The midwife's gentle humming still echoes in your memory, mixing with the whispered prayers and blessings that surrounded your child's first breath, creating a lullaby that spans centuries and speaks to the unchanging power of love to triumph over fear. Sleep comes easier now, carried on the wings of ancient wisdom and the promise of tomorrow's gentle light, as your story joins the endless tapestry of women who have brought forth life against all